We'll all be aware that we've been joined by members of the public to this meeting, and you're all very welcome. Glad to see you here with us this morning. But given that we have got new people who have joined us for this part of the meeting, I am going to go back through the protocol again. So all visitors must sign into the visit book at the entrance to Kilncraigs. This includes council staff from other buildings. There is no planned fire evacuation drill or alarm test today. So if the fire alarm is activated during your visit, you must exit the building immediately. Council officers will direct you to the nearest fire exit and will escort visitors to the building fire assembly point, which is beside the Silver Man, top of Parliament Walk. Kilncraigs staff should report to the floor's assembly point. You should remain at your assembly point until directed to reoccupy the building and only re-enter once the fire marshal is advised it's safe to do so. Please do not attempt to leave the site by vehicle until cleared to do so by the fire marshal to ensure that access routes are kept clear for emergency vehicles. Please note that this is a public meeting and that members of the public may be in attendance. The meeting will be recorded by the clerk and published online for public viewing. Taking of photographs, including screenshots, audio or video recordings, are not permitted during meetings unless with express permission of the convener. The members attending virtually activate their cameras where possible to enable you to join by video, and can all attendees mute their microphone when not speaking. Please do not come in during items unless I invite you to do so. If members attending virtually wish to speak on any point, please indicate by clicking on the raise your hand button. Members in the chamber should also raise their hand and I'll bring you in at an appropriate time. If members have not been able to access all papers for the meeting, could you please indicate? We will hear each of the items set out in the agenda and I'll invite the officer to present the paper. Members will then have the opportunity to ask questions before we proceed to debate and decision. Okay, notwithstanding the earlier information given by Councillor Rennie, do you have any other declarations of interest for matters relating to this agenda today? No? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the first item on the agenda, which is the minutes of a meeting from Clackmannanshire Council, which was held on 2nd of October 2025. I will go through them page by page. Page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, page 18. We're happy to agree those minutes? Okay.
Convener, can I ask at this point? Is it appropriate to ask for, under some matters arising? I know we don't have that on the agenda, but I just wondered, the RAC article that we spoke about here, I just wondered, is it appropriate to ask for an update on that particular progress at this point? Perhaps not.
It's not on the agenda for being updated at this point.
Okay, that's fine.
Item 4 on the agenda is the committee recommendations referred to council, and Nikki will take us through that paper.
Thank you, Convener, and good morning again, councillors. This report sets out 2 recommendations referred to council from the Audit and Scrutiny Committee meeting of the 30th of October 2025. First recommendation is seeking approval of the Audit and Scrutiny Committee's annual report, including the self-assessment actions detailed in the report. The second recommendation is seeking approval to hire £450,000 from the Safe Electrical Testing Programme to the Window Replacement Programme, as detailed within the Housing Revenue Account Financial Performance Report for 2025-26, based on the forecast at June 2025-26. The detailed reports have separately been made available to all councillors, but I'm happy to take any questions on the paper.
Okay, thanks. Nikki, do we have any questions? Okay, Councillor Forson to move the paper, thank you.
Yep, formally move.
Councillor Harrison, second.
Yep, formally second.
Okay, are we happy to approve the paper? Sorry, paper's open for debate. Do you wish to debate the paper any further? Happy to approve? Thank you. Item 5 is the Be the Future update, the digital data transformation. Again, Nikki will take us through that.
Thank you, convener. So this paper submits to council the latest in our regular updates on our View the Future target operating model and associated transformation programme. The paper covers three broad areas. Firstly, an update on our digital and data transformation work. Secondly, the annual refresh of the council's agreed corporate priorities for this programme of activity ahead of budget setting for 2026-27. And finally, the report provides an update on recent progress with our implementation of the previously agreed transformation space work. In respect of our digital and data transformation work, the paper provides a range of further detail and illustrations of our work across a number of strands of investment activity that include the Customer Services Hub, automation, data insights, our Smart Clacks initiatives, and the work that is being progressed to strengthen the Council's agreed benefits realisation framework. The paper also proposes 4 core priorities for 2026-27 ahead of budget setting in the new year, outlining the way in which we will continue to report on those initiatives which are now moving into an implementation phase. This will ensure that Council remains appraised of performance against key milestones and that appropriate and timely governance is sustained. Finally, the paper provides an update on the progress being made in respect of the implementation of year 0 of the transformation space, including the work of the Citizens Panel, with more than 50 residents now engaged and having dispersed the first 5 awards totalling just under £300,000. With the second and third panels now in train to consider bids against 2 further themes. I'm happy to take any questions on the paper or bring in colleagues as appropriate to assist. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nikki. Any questions on the paper? Councillor Coyne?
Thank you. A trivial one at first on page 23 makes references to paragraphs 3.48, 3.55, etc. I couldn't find those. Should that be 2.48 and 2.55? I didn't find a section 3 anywhere. I mean, do they align the thoughts with the numbers, replacing with the 2?
No, thank you, Councillor. It's a good spot, actually. That section that the recommendation refers to actually runs from 2.53 to 2.60. So you're correct, it should be in that section.
It should be 2, not 3.
Yes.
Thanks. Okay, on page 28, 2.44, I'm not sure if it's just a typo again, but the last sentence in that, it says that the benefits realisation plan was to be developed to track progress. So I kind of expected, but something. Is that has been developed or will be developed?
Okay. Apologies, my mic didn't turn on. So Council has already agreed with the benefits realisation framework approach. This is about populating that so that we can report on that through to Council.
And just my point was just it sounded to me as if we're about to give a reason for it not happening, but it has happened. That's fine. Okay, lastly, for the moment, 2.51, talking about the robotics side of things. I mean, that immediately said to me, is there a CRD opportunity for us in that space, do you think?
In terms of the city region deal?
Yeah.
On robotics, specifically?
Even a narrow section of robotics here.
I think some engagement has started on that, hasn't it, Alison? Did you, oh, are you coming up? I'm sorry, the usual officer expert is not the person that I thought was coming up.
Thank you, Councillor Coyne. I can advise in terms of the South Region deal, particularly around the cultural heritage and tourism, because it's linked with the Alloa Innovation Campus and the innovation piece of work. We have already started engagements around about the use of potential robotics and how that could be developed within the innovation element of Alloa Innovation Campus linked to the City Region deal. So there's early discussions taking place, and we are exploring how that could be part of the broader offer within the hub as part of our work and our ambition there.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Martin?
Page 30, regarding the transformation space. It looks like this is growing really popular. Is there any feedback that they can be given?
Lorraine, did you want to give a little more than's in the paper? I mean, we've just summarised the high level feedback, but Lorraine will be able to fill you in perhaps on what we're doing with tranche 2 and 3. Lorraine, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you for the question. Yeah, as the paper outlines, the first tranche was about prevention of homelessness, and we've already awarded the grants, and the organisations are absolutely delighted with that money, and we look forward to seeing what that brings. The next 2 phases have already started, so we've already started with the panels for mental health for children and young people, and we've actually received in excess of, I think it's 11 bids already. So it's very oversubscribed, that particular, but it's an area of high demand and need. I think the interesting part for me is that the people that are coming forward are looking to the future to say, what would it look like if we had mental health supports in the way that we think is required. So it's a bit different from us actually just allocating the grants out in terms of the existing way that we do within the council. We only kicked off yesterday with the employability piece. I think there was about 11 employers in the room, and a lot of young people, and they're coming together to say what could the future look like if we could improve employment. So they're taking it from that perspective. It's been very well facilitated by Foundation Scotland, so it's a bit arm's length from the council. So it's people from outside that are facilitating those discussions, and then the process is that the panel members make the decision on the awards themselves. That is then ratified by the boards that we sit on from the council, and we have elected member representation on that from the administration at the moment. So it's all going really well, very positive. I think those panel members who spoke at the recent board were very excited about the process and really felt as if they were involved and empowered.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Harrison.
Thanks, Convener. Lorraine, this is probably one for you as well. Sorry. So the citizens panel with the over 50 people on it, will that be the same 50 people for every topic, or are we looking at augmenting that panel with different people who may have speciality knowledge with the different topics as they go forward?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Harrison. I think it's up to over 60 now, which is incredible. So what people have been asked to do is to come forward, and when they volunteer for the panel, and everybody that has volunteered for the panel so far has been taken on to the voice panel. We haven't turned anybody away, but what they are asked at the beginning, at the outset, is to say do they have any particular lived experience. So it could be around homelessness, it could be around employability, so they can express their interest. Then that group of 60 is then asked, would they like to come forward and work on a particular theme? So there's a smaller group of people, just as I mentioned, who work on a theme of homelessness. There might be a bit of overlap at times. There might be the same people, because, as you know, part of the whole approach of this is that people who are presenting as potentially homeless may also have other issues, employability issues, all those things. So people have a range of lived experience that might not be just singular. So each panel is made up of about 10, 12 people. What we would like to do is increase the voice of young people on those panels, and we're making some deliberate attempts to try and adapt to make sure that can happen. It's not that we don't have young people, it's just at the times and things like that to bring them out of school if they're during the day, or to have them in the evening. So we're looking as to how we can enhance the voice of young people particularly. But in answer to if I take it back to the question, there'll be different people on different panels depending on their expertise, but there could be a bit of overlap. If that answers your question.
Just to follow up there, then, when you mentioned young people, young probably means different things to different people. What sort of age are you talking about there? Is it school age, or is it late teens, early 20s?
So we will take an inclusive approach. We'll not take an ageist approach. So yesterday, the panel of young people that went forward and talked to the employers in the area, they were fourth-year students from Alloa Academy. But I think it will depend on the issue. We can reach any age of child and young person in consultation. We know that we've got the expertise to do that. So we will, depending on the theme and the issue, we will try and make sure that we've, and you know, some young people have brothers and sisters that they can talk about, and they, you know, that is really important as well. So I think it's across the board, Councillor Naz.
Thank you. Councillor Forson.
Yeah, can I go a wee bit further on the benefits realisation and how they we might start to see some of the results around this. Obviously, the transformation programme is really for two reasons. To look at more financial sustainability, but to deliver better outcomes for our residents. And this paper focuses on digital. So I'm not going to keep it just to digital, but can we get some assurances that there will be some real reporting on the benefits that we're seeing from the investment that's been put in to develop these programmes? And I mean all of the programmes, because we are agreeing on the corporate priorities there. Just for clarification, will that come first to the Future Board and then potentially to Council through future updates? And are we able to put anything at the moment on figures or improved outcomes to let us see that this work is actually starting to deliver?
Thank you, Councillor Forson. So quite a few bits to your question. So first of all, I'll start with the framework. So Council has, as you know, has already agreed the framework. So the indicators that we are looking at are at 3 levels. So the most detailed level is at project level. The next level up is the thematic level in line with the future themes of sustainable inclusive growth, empowering families and communities, and health and wellbeing. And then the top tier of indicators is about the value added of the whole programme. So that was the approach that Council agreed. The reference in the paper is that we are using the advances we're making in digital to help us better marshal our data to be able to populate more creatively the types of indicators that we report on. As you know, it's quite easy at project level, but when you get more thematic, it gets harder and harder, especially when you want to focus on outcomes. So we're trying to look across at different data sets that we've got, to work out how we pull together different indicators so that they're more meaningful, which has obviously been quite a big topic of discussion through the Be the Future Board. So that's the first bit on the actual framework and how our work that we're doing on digital is helping us actually take forward our internal processes. I mean, it's a good example is the digital benefits coming to the second part of what you'd asked about. So we want to get to a place where we can report really clearly on the financial and non-financial benefits of the investment that we've made through our transformation activity, particularly with a focus on how it's helping us achieve our outcomes. So if I just stick with the digital one, though, that's quite a good example. It's a very live one just now. The work that we are doing through our digital and data transformation piece is certainly delivering a lot of efficiencies. But what we're finding is that when you look at how those benefits are falling, it's falling in kind of small parts of people's roles. So how you actually convert that into either a financial or non-financial benefit is quite difficult when it's a bit of a person. So we're just in the process actually as a senior team of looking at that. We've got a meeting in before Christmas actually to have another go at that, exactly that issue, so that we can start to develop out the approach to the cashable, non-cashable benefits that are being delivered through the investment. And your third bit was about where the reporting was. So we will be using our existing flow of reporting. So into the officer space with trade unions would be the strategic oversight group, then into the Be the Future Board, and then on into Council, obviously through this update report that comes every cycle.
Just to follow up on that, it was a few months ago, you and I met in here actually with the Audit Commission, etc. And there was lots of questions around about sustainability, and that we put a percentage, kind of around about transformation and how that was going to help us deliver that. Do you think that we're on track to deliver that?
Obviously you were there and you know what was said at the time, which is, you have to make a set of assumptions on that. The proportion, the next step of the work that we're doing on the benefits realisation framework will be about mapping how much that percentage that is mentioned in the document that you refer to, means at individual project level. So you can actually start to add up the individual benefits from individual transformation projects to see the extent to which they're meeting that overall target that we'd set in the medium-term financial strategy. We're not quite there yet, as you know, but that is the plan that we're working through at the moment, so that is there explicitly and specifically so we can actually monitor against it and make sure that we're taking corrective action if we're not on target.
Thank you. Councillor McTaggart.
Thanks, convener. Just following on from Councillor Forson's question there, Nikki. I'm thinking more about the ageing population in Clackmannanshire. So I'm wondering if the transformation space is throwing up any positive outcomes in that space, and also if we're collaborating with strategic partners like the Health and Social Care Partnership to look at how the transformation might benefit us around the short breaks plan, around care at home, etc. Because that is a massive drain on resources, but it's also important to keep the older population in mind, a growing population that needs to have services delivered in dignity and compassion. So I'm just wondering if there's any overlap there with what we're doing.
Thank you for that question, Councillor McTaggart. I think probably if I start off and I'll do a broader response and then maybe bring Lorraine and Wendy in just to speak about the two specific areas that you talked about. So in general terms, in terms of our approach to transformation, we have made sure that we are aligned with the work in the transformation plans of our health and social care partners. We actually have been actively looking for more opportunities so that we can really convert the benefits there. So a really good example of that is the piece of work that we're doing on the collab piece with Falkirk, which we just talked about in the first part of this meeting, where Joanna and her counterpart in Falkirk, Gail, have been a key part of that work. And there are actually proposals that are included in our tranche 1 that put across the health and social care transformation programme too. So we're really trying to join it up, which I think is partly what's behind your question. We also, in terms of our broader approach, is we have recognised there's a bit of learning from the past from us. In the past, probably the two sets of arrangements have run in parallel, particularly between ourselves with the partnership and the council. I'd say that's less and less of an issue as we're moving forward. I mean, Joanna, as you know, is embedded in our management team regularly. Other members of the HSCP SLT attend my management teams. You see them in the committees and so on. So I think we're moving into quite a different phase in terms of that work. So it's fair to say we probably had a few missed opportunities back at the start of the partnership space. So things like Primrose Place, where we wanted to do more, which ties in with, some of what you're raising in terms of our ageing population and so on. And now we're actively looking at those opportunities and how we can work together for the future so that we're not doing something separate from the partnership, we're actually working together on proposals. But I'll take a breath now and I'll bring Lorraine and then Wendy in, if that's okay, on the specifics.
Yeah, exactly. Good. Councillor McTaggart, thank you. Just a couple of things to add to what Nikki's mentioned. So yes, I would say that Wendy and I are in regular collaboration contact about what we can do in terms of bringing those two strands of work, the transformation space and particularly the strategic plan for health and social care together. We identified the initial four themes based on who was putting money into the pot, quite frankly, in terms of the transformation space and how could we take that forward. But increasingly, as we go into year 1, it will be the panel themselves who identify the issues. Obviously, we will support them in their discussions, but we've had some initial thoughts around living at home. Living well at home for longer. Could we put out a fund which would actually encourage people to think about what that would look like? Alcohol and drugs in terms of that other area is another area that we haven't even put our toe in. So there's lots and lots of opportunity for the transformation space and for us to work very closely with the Health and Social Care Partnership as we go forward. Wendy, do you want to add anything?
Good morning, Wendy Forrest. I'm the Head of Strategic Planning and Health Improvement for the Health and Social Care Partnership. I think it's a really opportune moment to talk about the work that we've been doing together. And I know that you and I have talked about housing previously, and we work very closely with Kevin and his team in terms of adaptations and how we work closely there. So there's loads of opportunities where I think we've created a much more collaborative space. The review of the strategic commissioning plan is really important. That sets the direction. It's a statutory consultation that's currently underway, and I would encourage everybody to provide their feedback into that because it sets our priorities for the next 3 years. Joanna worked with the 3 chief executives to ensure that we had a fire break in February to pull together the work that we absolutely know we needed to do, and that aligns to our recovery plan in terms of our financial position as well. So there's lots of touch points for this, but from our colleagues within housing, our director of people, and also the practicalities of support services and how that works effectively. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Forson.
Just a wee follow-up for Wendy before she goes to it. You mentioned there the kind of consultation that's ongoing. Can I just get assurances that there'll be a consultation session set up for elected members just to make sure that we're able to kind of input into the direction moving forward?
Yes, absolutely. Very happy to do that. And we'll do, I don't know whether you would want it to be a joint session with Stirling or whether you'd want, I'm happy to be guided by yourselves. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If we have no further, Councillor Harrison.
Yeah, and Nicky, so the transformation space is pretty unique and groundbreaking. What's been the feedback from others looking into this, partner organisations, other local authorities, Scottish Government, etc.? What's been the feedback from them on how this is going so far, and is anybody else looking at taking this forward?
Again, I'll do the same thing, Lorraine. Do you want to get on your toes? I'll make a general comment and bring Lorraine in because she's got the most up-to-date position on it. What I would say is that I know from a corporate point of view, we are quite a destination for a range of our transformation work, which particularly includes the more innovative elements like the transformation space. So we're seeing a lot of councils coming to visit us. We're having to watch that quite carefully because it's taking up increasing amounts of capacity, but we're very willing to share the learning, because you will know that actually we've invested significantly in establishing the frameworks and arrangements behind the scenes before you get to the point of even taking the decision on these. So I'll bring Lorraine in on the specifics now.
Thanks, Nicky. Thanks, Councillor Harrison. Yeah, we've had a lot of interest from other authorities across Scotland and UK-wide and internationally, actually, in terms of transformation space. It doesn't, in its format that we've taken it forward, it doesn't exist as far as we're aware anywhere else. And as you know, as Nicky has said, we put a lot of effort in to make sure that we were trying to cover all bases, that it wasn't just something that was kind of on the back of a piece of paper. So it has got legal agreements in there, as well as the Invest to Save money that we achieved from Scottish Government to kick it off. And we're now in discussions with external funders, both private and public sector funders, to see if they will invest into the fund so that we can expand what the offer can be for Clackmannshire's residents. In terms of, because we've had so many visitors, either from, and it's interesting because they come from different parts of the council. So we've led this, I think, cross-directorate, but the legal people in some authorities are really interested, the finance people in others. So it's got broad interest across the piece, as well as at Scottish Government, who invited us to there was a recent large event with the First Minister, and we were asked to speak about it and had a large audience there too. But in response to that interest, we're about to publish, probably next week, an inception report that outlines how we did it and what was really important in terms of actually delivering that, because in response, because we just can't meet the response and the demand of people who are interested. There's also an additional part of that, how it demonstrates from the Christie Commission to what we're doing today. So we've put a lot of effort into the communications packet that goes with it now.
Okay, thank you. We have no further questions. Councillor Forson to move the paper.
Thanks, Convener. I am happy to move the recommendations in the report on the Be the Future programme. in particular our progress in the data and digital transformation and the proposed corporate priorities for 26-27. I think it's an important paper for the Council because it demonstrates clearly that our long-term transformation work is not just progressing, it's maturing, embedding, and now starting to deliver real benefits for communities across Clackmannanshire. Digital and data transformation remains one of our flagship priorities, and the report sets out the significant progress we've made. We now have a unified framework bringing together our customer service hub, automation tools, and our new data platform is moving into a modern system for delivering services more efficiently and more consistently for our residents. Across education, roads and other services, we've already introduced 11 new online applications that are saving staff time, reducing errors and giving residents clearer, simpler access to support. In roads alone, the integration of mapping tools and streamlined forms is cutting out avoidable phone calls and enabling faster responses to customers. I would say that staff engagement is strong. Through Automation September, more than 150 ideas came forward from the workforce for smarter, more efficient processes, and several of these automations are already being developed, including improvements in licensing, court forms and referrals in children's services. I think most people will agree that's exactly the culture shift that this council has been aiming for, but I think, as I've tried to kind of demonstrate with questions, that culture shift must come with measurable impact. The report highlights the work underway to develop a comprehensive benefits realisation plan to track the outcomes and savings of the transformation programme, including high-level KPIs for each theme and dashboards through the data platform to elected members to allow us to see clearly what savings and efficiencies are being delivered. This is essential because we must be able to quantify the financial and operational benefits of digital change, particularly in automation, new online services and improved data insights, so that our residents can see the transformation is directly contributing to sustainability, better services and a stronger financial position for the council. I also want to highlight the update on the Clackmannanshire transformation space. I think Lorraine's given us a lot more information there today. I think it's one of the boldest community-led decision-making models anywhere in Scotland. We've got more than 50 local residents now actively taking place in the citizens panel, and the first cycle focused on homelessness prevention resulted in 5 projects being funded with a total investment of £297,000. I think it's a major step forward. Local people making decisions about local funding, investment directed at prevention rather than crisis response, and residents reporting genuinely positive experiences, describing the process as empowering, collaborative and community building. I think it's exactly the kind of partnership with communities that the council believes in, practical, grounded and supporting long-term change rather than sticking plaster fixes. I think I want to be clear, certainly for the administration and I think the council as a whole, transformation isn't an abstract concept or a buzzword. It's a deliberate political choice and a deliberate strategic choice. At a time when councils across Scotland are under intense financial pressure, some authorities have stepped back from reform. This council has chosen to step forward. We have chosen to invest in digital capability, modern systems, community-led decision-making and preventative approaches. Because I think we discussed earlier in the first paper, the alternative is decline, cuts and crisis management. I think we all believe that Clackmannanshire deserves better than that. We believe in empowering communities rather than doing things to them, and we believe that the best way to protect services is to reform them before circumstances force their hands. And I think that's why we're committed to clear, measurable benefits. We want residents and elected members across the chamber to see the value of the changes we're making, the savings being generated, the efficiencies being delivered, and the improvement in service quality, because accountability and transparency strengthens trust, and trust strengthens our ability to govern effectively. And I think while others may talk about innovation, this council is delivering it. We know there's a motion later on today's agenda celebrating a Causal Excellence Award, which we won exactly for that reason. The nearly £300,000 allocated by local residents through the transformation space, the new digital services now live across the council, the hundreds of ideas coming from our workforce are all practical results of the leadership, direction and political will. Next week, we've got the Minister for Public Finance, Ivan McKee, coming to visit the council to hear more about our progress, particularly in the transformation space, but also the wider transformation agenda, which can hopefully inform public sector reform. So Clackmannanshire may be a small council, but we are showing that small councils can lead big change. And we're not waiting for national solutions, we're building local ones, grounded in our values, driven by our communities and focused on long-term sustainability. The corporate priorities we've been asked to approve today, digital data transformation, asset strategy, workforce strategy, and a new collaboration workstream with Falkirk will guide the next phases of this work. They reflect our ambition to build a resilient modern council capable of meeting financial challenges while still improving outcomes for local people. It's a serious programme of work. It's starting to deliver and it's building the foundations for a more sustainable council and stronger communities, and we need to keep a focus on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hamilton, to second.
Thanks, Convener. This paper sets out a bold, people-focused vision for the next 5 years, and I am pleased to second it. This is about empowering staff and communities, improving services, and delivering smarter, more responsive solutions. Key changes include the Customer Service Hub, automation tools, and a strong data platform to streamline processes and strengthen evidence-based decision-making, making services simpler and more accessible. Roadmap aligned with national guidelines on the Scotland's review of digital progress and the Scottish Government's vision for a thriving digital nation. It is a collective effort working with SOLAS, the Improvement Service, and the Digital Office. Our priorities are clear: digital and data transformation, asset strategy, workforce strategy, and collaboration. I'd also like to highlight the citizen panel, and having had the pleasure of attending the first transformation board, this is certainly an exciting way forward in Clacks, with a recent article in the Scotsman praising this innovative work. I'm delighted to second this paper.
Thank you. The paper is now open for debate. Anybody wish to contribute to debate? Councillor McTaggart.
Thanks, Convener. I just want to thank everybody involved in this for the amount of work. It just doesn't seem like 5 minutes ago since we were in this chamber discussing the framework, how this could look. And not many months later, we're here looking at the benefits already available to us for this work. It's been a massive piece of work, and it's clearly a massively successful way of delivering services that we can see demonstrated already. So I just wanted to thank the team for that, thank the team for the additional work put in to make this successful. And going forward, being excited about what this can produce for other elements of service. We're already seeing a bit of it in housing, where we're looking at tenant participation more closely, tenant scrutiny panel about to be set up. So it is starting to show throughout the council services. Thanks, Convener.
Okay, thank you. Any other contributions to the debate? Councillor Wilson, do you want an opportunity to sum up? No. Okay, so the paper asks us to approve the Be the Future corporate priorities for 2026-27 and agree that these will be continued to be reported to the Strategic Oversight Group and the Be the Future Board with thematic updates provided to Council each cycle. We're asked to approve that the priorities moved to implementation will be reported to Council when updates and progress need to be highlighted and to allow for continued transparency and scrutiny. We're asked to note that the strategic direction of the Digital and Data Transformation Programme is outlined in the 5-year roadmap, to note the progress across each of the work streams which reflect the Council's ongoing drive to innovate and enhance efficiency, to put people at the centre of its services supported by digital tools, continuous learning and partnership working. Finally, we're asked to note that the progress in the Clackmannanshire transformation space, which is covered in paragraph 356 to 359. Are we happy to approve the paper?
256.
Correct, you're right, 256. Are we happy to approve the paper subject to that amendment? Thank you. Okay, item 6, the establishment of a non-domestic rates appeal committee. And Lindsay, let's see what
Thank you, Convener. Good morning, Council. This report asks Council to approve the establishment of a non-domestic rates appeal committee. This is in order to consider and determine appeals from ratepayers in line with section 238 of the Local Government Scotland Act 1947, which gives the legal right to appeal. The proposed new process is intended to give both the ratepayer and council officers as the rating authority a fair opportunity to present their case and for members through the committee to ask questions, seek clarifications, and ultimately determine the liability around responsibility for payment of the rates. An appeals committee will be convened where the internal process has been exhausted without resolution, and the process sets out how these hearings convened by the new appeals committee should be conducted. This is based on the practice of the local taxation chamber, which is part of the Scottish Tribunal Service. We hear appeals for council tax liability, council tax banding and rates valuations. After the hearing, the committee will issue a decision notice, and in the event that the ratepayer remains dissatisfied with the committee's decision, it would be open to them to apply to the Scottish courts for a judicial review. So I'm happy, along with colleagues, to take any questions on the report. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Lindsay. Do we have any questions? Councillor Coyne?
Thanks, Convener. Has any thought been given to how the committee, how the pool will be gathered together? I note from the report that it doesn't require any political bias either way. And something to be avoided probably is if you're debating a case in one particular ward, that the ward members are not present for that in terms of adjudicating. May I suggest that you look at either a pool of 10 by taking 2 members from each ward, which gives you a good committee to draw on. If you need it to be smaller than that, take 2 from the four-member wards, 1 from the 3-member wards, so you get a pool of 8 then to draw 3 from. So you should always get someone there. Also, it focuses the training needs on a smaller number of people and maybe makes them a little bit more focused on what they're going to do. That's my suggestion. Do you like it?
Thank you for your suggestion, Councillor. I think that's a reasonable suggestion, and we'll take that on board when we're looking to establish the members of the committee.
Thank you. Councillor Harrison?
Thanks, Convener. Lindsay, what's the process at the moment?
So currently we don't have a process in place. We have not received any appeals that require us to go to this stage. So this is why we're putting it in place now.
Okay, Councillor Errol?
Yeah, I know that we've got several members that are on the Central Region Valuation Board. Now, would this be a conflict of interest between this and the valuation appeal tribunal?
Councillor Errol, no. This is solely in relation to the administration of liability of non-domestic rates, whereas the valuation will be around about the valuation of the dwelling itself.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Quinn.
My first thought when I see a new committee is, do we need a new committee? So so if we don't have one currently, just purely because we haven't had any, does this need to be done by councillors legally, yeah? Or could it be done by someone else?
The legislation that permits the 1947 Act just makes that the local authority must have a process in place. So there is no particular need for the council to do so. It is a common, we did benchmark across many authorities. It is a common practice. I did mention that there had been many before. There had been some changes in legislation recently, implemented the last 2 years, which is kind of gave us a bit of a challenge because there's a bit more, rather than following legislation to a T, there's a bit more interpretation following the anti-avoidance measures. Hence the reason for us now looking to establish this committee.
Okay, yeah, so saying we need to have something to deal with appeals, but it doesn't have to be elected members that's necessarily involved with it. Thanks.
Right, yeah. Excellent, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McTaggart.
Thanks, Convener. When this was first mooted some weeks ago, my first thought was
that it would just go along the same lines as the Education Appeals Committee, where we would just sort of get an email to say we needed people to sit in the committee. It couldn't be the ward members in the area that we were dealing with, and it just basically follow that same sort of structure. So is that the kind of thing we're thinking about, Lindsay?
Thank you. Yes, that is our intention. We would, if there an appeal was needed to be held, we'd look to establish a committee by emailing out and asking for volunteers similar to that process.
Okay, do we have any other questions? No. Thank you, Lindsay. Councillor Forson to move the paper.
Yep, happy to move the paper. I think as we've heard, under section 2.3 of the Local Government Scotland Act 1947, surprised that's still around, but ratepayers have a statutory right to appeal if they believe they have been improperly charged, and it's therefore necessary for the council to put in place the appropriate governance arrangements to hear and determine it. I do know there was a fair bit of kind of discussion back and forward and thoughts as to whether it could be done by officers or whether it should be elected members. Benchmarking was carried out, and I think the majority of councils have elected member involvement in this. I think as well it provides transparency, and that's something that we're you know, kind of keen to move forward. So I think the paper sets out a clear and proportionate framework. It's a small committee of 3 elected members drawn from the full council. I think it has to be drawn back from the full council. We are actually the smallest mainland council with the smallest number of councillors. And we all know the difficulties around kind of diary commitments, etc. sometimes to you know, kind of fill the Education Appeals Committee. You know, when you look at us and you look at Fife, who've got like 72 councillors, there's a much bigger pool. If we were to restrict it to some, I think we could come into some issues there. And of course, if members have a conflict of interest or it's a ward issue, it's quite possible to recuse yourself there. I think it also gives flexibility around training, and it allows ward members to make representations where appropriate. There'll be full training provided to anyone participating. I think the approach, as I've said, it ensures transparency, fairness and compliance with our legal responsibilities, whilst creating a simple mechanism to deal with any appeals that may arise. So I'll propose the paper on that basis.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hamilton to second.
I'll formally second.
Thank you. Paper's open for debate. Anybody wish to debate the paper? No. What we've been asked to approve is the establishment of the Non-Domestic Rates Appeal Committee to consider and determine appeals from ratepayers against rates claimed from them on the grounds that ratepayers have been improperly charged in terms of section 238 of the Local Government Scotland Act 1947. If we approve that, listed from 221 to 224 are the consequential steps we're asking or we're agreeing to take. From 225 to 229, the points that we need to know. We have to approve the paper on that basis.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Item 7 is the non-domestic rates discretionary relief paper, charities and sports clubs, and Shireen's going to take us through that. Thank you.
Morning, councillors. So this report presents the findings of a consultation on the potential changes to the discretionary non-domestic rates relief currently offered by Clackmannanshire Council. The consultation process was undertaken following agreement at Special Council on the 27th of February 2025, with a commitment to bring a report back on the findings of the consultation back to Council for consideration. The paper highlights that whilst the original council decision was to consult community amateur sports clubs, the scope for the consultation was extended for reasons of fairness and transparency to include all 35 organisations currently receiving discretionary non-domestic rates relief. The consultation was carried out over a period of 10 weeks, from the 18th of August to the 27th of October, and 31 organisations provided evidence as part of the consultation. Each organisation was asked to provide information on the impact that any proposed change to non-domestic rates relief would have on how they operate and deliver services, and this information on impact is presented in the report at Appendix 1. An Equality and Fairer Scotland impact assessment is also provided at Appendix 2 to this report. Myself and colleagues are happy to take any questions on the report.
Okay, thanks, Sheree. Councillor Foster.
Thanks, convener. So the consultation, the responses there were fairly comprehensive, and actually that's probably one of the biggest responses we've had to consultations. So I think it demonstrates just how important this was. So 19% of groups said that closure was likely if the group's closure was likely if this went ahead, and 22% said that they would be forced to cut services. Was there any kind of further work done on the financial impact that would have on the council if that was to take place?
No, not as part of this consultation.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Holt.
I'll come back and can just look at the
Of course. Do we have any other questions? Councillor Martin's going to save you at the moment.
Yeah, I was going to say, was there any further work done on what would be the material impact of that on our services? You know, when partnership is such a, we're all, you know, on that's a mission, you know.
That has come through strongly in the responses from the organisations that were consulted, that there would be an impact both in terms of the councils, in terms of property, but also on services that would, you know, be required to come at crisis point to council services, where the voluntary and third sector are supporting a lot of that work at the moment around prevention work.
Thank you, Councillor Coyne.
Thanks, Convener. I'm just looking at 2.4 and the decision whether to withdraw, or maintain. I can see kind of A and C, because A relates to a previous decision. C is a simple blanket solution. How were the societies and organisations in Appendix 1, Table 1 chosen? Why that selection from all? I mean, it's maybe in the report somewhere and I've just missed it.
I'm not sure I understand the question, Councillor Coyne. Could you ask again?
Yes.
Okay. The 35 organisations are the organisation, all of them that get the discretionary relief at the moment. That answers the question you were asking.
Well, maybe it's my turn to not understand. B says to withdraw discretionary non-domestic rates relief from all the organisations listed. And C says right, sorry.
Okay, do we have any other questions? Sorry, Councillor Errol.
Yes, Chair. It may have been asked, and I'm not getting a very good reception. The effect of withdrawing this grant to all these organisations, was that taken on board? Were the organisations all mooted to say, well, look, what would happen if we did do this? The voluntary sector is a big part of all organisations. It has been for a number of years. And we have to look at the effect of withdrawing from the voluntary sector. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Errol. So the purpose of the consultation was to get that feedback from organisations and groups, and that is presented at the report at Appendix 1. So full and detailed responses from the organisations that were consulted is provided at Appendix 1 of the report on the impacts.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Vasili.
I think the original consultation is just to look at the sports club, but it's broadened out to look at those receiving grant. I was wondering if there was any further consideration given to those organisations that we were in discussion on community ownership, thinking about Sauchie Hall, Ben Close Centre and the Alloa Community Hub.
No, so we engaged with all organisations that currently receive the reach relief.
Okay, do we have any other questions? Okay, thank you, Sheree. Councillor Forson to move the paper. in the paper it does give us options which to pick. It would be helpful if you could indicate the position for the administration when we move the paper. Thanks.
Thanks, convener. So following the recent consultation, we are asked today to decide whether Clackmannanshire Council should remove discretionary non-domestic rates relief from the very organisations I think we all agree hold together the social fabric of this county. Having listened to our communities, having examined the evidence and reflected on our duties, both statutory and moral, this administration, and I'm sure the position will be the same across the council, is unequivocal. We cannot support the withdrawal of the discretionary rates relief. I have to say it wasn't a decision taken lightly. Like every council in Scotland, Clackmannanshire is facing extraordinary financial pressures, and we continue to have difficult conversations across every corner of our budget. But let me be clear, removing this relief is not a saving that we're prepared to pursue, and the case against it is overwhelming. The consultation reached 35 organisations, with 31 providing detailed responses and supplementary evidence across the full range of community activity. And I think, as I kind of mentioned in my question, we don't get that level of response to consultations. These groups span our entire county: community halls, food support charities, mountain rescue, sports clubs, children's services, arts and mental health groups, autism services, youth organisations, and many more. The report shows in stark detail the consequences of removing this relief. Hopkill Community Association said supporting dementia groups, ESOL learners, breastfeeding support, and mental health groups, and they warned bluntly that they would have to close and that would be disastrous for community if the relief was removed. Tullibody and Canvas Scouts and Guides said closure would be likely, removing life-changing opportunities for young people across the area. The Gate Charity, which provides crisis food support, warm meals, social connection, outreach and welfare checks, warned that the loss of relief would shut down key services, leaving vulnerable residents without support. Clackmannanshire Citizen Advice Bureau reminded us that the value of the relief equates to months of advisors' salaries, which would reduce their ability to support residents with debt, benefits, housing and energy issues. Alloa Community Enterprises warned that the removal could lead to closure, increased fly tipping, reduced recycling and higher costs for the council and the community. I think the snapshot of the responses there just highlight how important this resource is to the community groups. So across the consultation, 19% of groups said that closure was likely if the rates relief was withdrawn, and 22% would be forced to cut services, including those for older people, people with disabilities, low-income households, children and ethnic minority communities. I do have to say though, convener, I think that bringing this paper back to council was absolutely the right thing to do. After such a comprehensive consultation, I think the organisations deserved clarity and certainty. It would have been wrong, not transparent, not fair, to leave them in limbo or to allow a decision of this importance to drift without formal consideration by members. So whatever view colleagues take today, I do think our third sector deserves respect, honesty and a clear outcome. They told us openly what withdrawal would mean for them, and we owe them an equally clear and open decision in return. I think the report is also unequivocal about who benefits from the work of these organisations. The majority, 67%, support older adults, people with disabilities, and those experiencing socio-economic disadvantage. Many also work with women, new mothers, young people, LGBTQ+ organisations, and ethnic minority groups. And I think removing relief would not fall evenly. It would fall hardest on those who already face the greatest barriers. We would see the loss of warm spaces in community hubs, reduced capacity for women's services, fewer safe, trusted spaces for people with ASN and young people. There would be greater isolation for older adults and an increased pressure on statutory services, which many of these organisations already help to relieve. And I think the Equality and Fairer Scotland Impact Assessment highlights these risks clearly, and we have to take them seriously. The total cost to the council of providing this relief is £21,000, and £4,000 of that relates to the community and sports clubs. I think for that modest spend, we safeguard hundreds of thousands of pounds of community value and preventative support that would otherwise fall to the council, And I would clarify that, you know, we don't know what the actual end result of that would be or the cost would be. So removing the relief, I believe, would be a false economy. I think services that prevent isolation, improve mental health, enable volunteering, reduce landfills, support families and protect vulnerable residents are not optional extras, they are essential. And if these groups were weakened or closed, the financial burden would fall straight back onto the public purse, and I think there would be a much higher cost. I think beyond finance and statutory duties, there is a simple truth that these organisations we know are at the heart of Clackmannanshire. They're run by volunteers, community leaders and ordinary residents who give their time and energy to support the people around them. They step in very often where the state cannot always reach. They build resilience, pride, opportunity and dignity in every part of our county. To place further financial pressure on organisations already stretched to their limits during a cost of living crisis would be wrong. It would be wrong socially, economically and morally. I think I've said publicly, and you know, I'll repeat that here today, we will not support the removal of the discretionary rates relief as it puts these organisations at risk. And I think the choice before us today is more than a line in a budget. It's a statement of our values, it's a recognition of the invaluable contribution of our third sector, and it's a commitment to protect the most vulnerable in our communities. And it's an understanding that what might just seem like a small saving today can become much greater cost tomorrow. So for all these reasons, I hope that members across the council support the administration's position that Clackmannanshire Council maintains discretionary non-domestic rates relief for all organisations. It's the right decision for our residents, the right decision for our communities, and the right decision for the future of Clackmannanshire. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hamilton to second.
Thanks, Convener. I understand that the consultation and the withdrawal of discretionary relief for charities and sports clubs has caused concern. I've read the consultation responses and listened carefully to feedback from the community. As an administration, we are acutely aware of the important and valuable work that community groups and sports clubs do to support our most vulnerable in society. However, I do believe this paper needed to be brought forward as per the agreement at the previous council meeting. Council is facing difficult decisions, and it is essential that we are transparent about the choices we make. While I am sorry if this process has caused any distress or worry, openness and clarity are vital as we navigate these financial challenges. We also recognise that these groups provide services that absolutely complement and support the work of the council. For these reasons, I second this paper and support the recommendation to maintain the provision of non-domestic rates relief. Thank you, Convener.
Thank you. The paper is now open for debate. Councillor Harrison to be followed by Councillor Holden.
Yeah, thanks, Convener. Listen, I would first like to thank the organisations that completed the survey. Really realise how much time and effort that probably took, and I'd like to assure them that certainly the administration group read every single one of those and took them on board. The community organisations, when you read those statements, it just we think we know what they do, but when you read it, put it down in black and white by them, it really brings it home just how much of a benefit to the county those 35 organisations are. So I think Councillor Forson and Hamilton in their moving in the paper and second and summed it up really, really well. So yeah, just to put it on record that I will be supporting that we maintain the non-domestic rates relief. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Holden to be followed by Councillor Earl.
Thanks, Convener. As the mover of the original amendment to the budget paper that led to the removal of the original saving, which was £4,000. Has there ever been so much concern and anxiety caused for a saving of £4,000 in this one? I don't think there has. And I was glad at the time when obviously we came back, there was an adjournment in the council meeting. I'll just remind people who perhaps weren't there. An adjournment, we came back and it was unanimously agreed that we would not take the same just now, but we did ask for the consultation to take place. So we can't complain when the consultation comes back to us, because that's what the council asked for. But it's clear from the outcome of the consultation, from looking at it here, a significant impact, not just on the organisations. And I think this is something where we lose sight of the bigger picture, because yes, there'll be a massive impact on the organisations themselves, but the impact on the council would also be significant. We would never be able to provide some of the services provided for the saving of £4,000. So it just kind of demonstrates, I suppose, the short-sightedness sometimes in these things. But We've asked for it, we've got it back, and you know, I'm happy to come back, we can put this one to bed, which was going to be part of the question I was going to ask, and I didn't ask it because I suspect I wouldn't like the answer. I'm going to make the point. This is about a decision that we are taking now. But if the budget comes up out with a 6 month period from now, or even perhaps it could happen perhaps less than 6 months from now, that doesn't mean that this proposal won't come back again. Because which really seems quite bizarre, given that we're also unanimously rejecting the first budget, unanimously reject proposal, and we're likely to see it again. So if the administration are serious, which I'm sure they are, in terms of the commitment to the voluntary sector, make one final commitment on this one. Once we've decided this looks as though it's likely that we're going to unanimously vote against this again today, can we get a commitment from the administration? And I've got another few administration members most spoken to, perhaps can give that commitment. This will not appear back in the budget report. The reason why I'm asking that is because if I agree to that just now, it saves all these people coming back, going through all the anxiety that came through, and us going through the anxiety as well to come back to reject it again. Doesn't make sense. So I would ask if we can consider that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Order, it's all over Councillor Coyne.
Yeah, I'm prepared to move at the moment if the administration wish to answer Councillor Holden's question.
Sorry, Councillor Hill, could you repeat that?
I'm prepared to sit back at the moment if the administration wish to answer Councillor Holden's question.
So the administration are required to answer Councillor Holden's question at this stage, Councillor Hill. Do you want to contribute to the debate?
Yes, I'll contribute to the debate. Councillor Forson, fortunately, stole a lot of my thunder, because a lot of the points that she raised were exactly what I was going to say, particularly about the strength of the voluntary sector in Clackmannanshire. Lots of people, they just think, well, it's good, it's quite twee, it's the voluntary sector, it's the great and the good and the good stuff. But they forget just how important the voluntary sector is. I've likened it in the past to a very small cog in a large machine. But without that small cog, the machine is going to grind to a halt. The voluntary sector, we cannot afford. I wish there was a cost analysis done of the works done in the voluntary sector and see if the council actually could afford to run without that. And I'm pretty sure the answer would be no, they couldn't. They do an awful lot of terrific work. Organisations like Hawkhill Community Association, like CAB, like the Wimpy Park Group, who've just been given an award equivalent to an MBE. We would be slapping them in the face if we withdrew this rate relief. We can't afford to do it. It's £4,000. It's a pittance when you look at the overall sum. So the Labour group will not be supporting this paper. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Coyne.
Thanks, Convener. It's entirely appropriate that at times of budget challenges that we consider all savings that come forward. It's also, if you think about in terms of the clubs and membership organisations, that can have a commercial retail side to them, which could help them, adjust the funding to if the grant was taken away. But the problem is not all those organisations can influence their turnover just by clicking their fingers. So, and at what point do you draw the line between who should be in and who should be out? So we really have to, I think, consider all of the clubs together. And it strikes me as being very obvious that the work that they do, in proportion to them, the money that they would lose, and in proportion to the money that we would save relative to our budget, if you compare the relative percentages, I mean, ours, it's a drop in the ocean. Whereas it's a significant sum to these clubs and organisations, which would make a fundamental difference to what they're trying to do. Also, penalising them in this kind of way, it goes against the idea of us empowering our communities and trying to devolve responsibility to voluntary organisations. Yeah, I think it flies in the face of a principle I've felt echoed around this chamber for the past while. I also note that in response to the statement made by Councillor Holden, that this, if we approve this, it becomes a change in policy, which would suggest that it isn't going to come back anyway. If the policy changes, that's permanent, unless we did get to debating the policy at a future date. But that suggests to me, I think it's 2.6 suggests that this would be a decision that would have long-term results, and therefore that might perhaps alleviate Councillor Holden's concerns.
Thank you, Councillor Lindsay. No, oh, sorry, I think Nikki.
I won't give you the opportunity to come in, though. That's all right. I had my hand up.
Councillor McTaggart, sorry.
Get the gambling. Thanks, Jay. Thanks, Kim. Councillor Holden said that the decision was originally around £4,000 reduction, £4,000 budget saving, and that it's created all this debate and indecision, etc. And I totally agree with him. However, I think actually it's been a benefit. Ultimately, it's been a benefit because it's reminded us, this consultation has reminded us just how valuable our third sector is to us. It's brought to the fore the type of services they deliver. In fact, we were talking a few papers ago about the transformation space. Without the third sector as a stakeholder, as a partner, I doubt that we'd be able to perform the way we're performing in that transformation space. So I think it's actually been an advantage to us. This consultation has allowed us to reflect, has allowed the third sector to respond to us, to remind us exactly how important they are in this county. So I'm actually, although it has maybe been a wee bit an uncertain time for the third sector organisations, I think it's been a useful exercise because it has underpinned how strong our partnership is with the third sector and why we cannot afford to lose that. Thanks, Convener.
Thank you. Councillor? Quick point of order.
So to as a point of order, because I think for the good business of the county, I had to take some time to think about the point that Councillor Quinn was making, because I wasn't quite sure I understood it. I think perhaps if you could clarify this for us, it would be helpful, and it would also enable a good decision to be made today. The question seemed to be around, the point I was making around was that if we decide today that we're going to maintain it, then it could still come back up again and you say, well, that might not be a case of change to policy, but it's not. So I was only asking, so the current policy, and 2 point, the recommendations state there, if agreed, the removal of discretionary wage leave would take effect from December 26. And then when we go to section 2.6, that's a continuation of that previous paragraph that says, note that if agreed, this decision would represent a change to policy. So am I correct in reading that the only change to policy would be is that the decision was taken to agree the removal of discretionary wage leave and not the maintenance of it?
Oh.
That is our understanding of that position.
I don't think that's quite intended, and that was, I think that's maybe confusing people.
No, you're right. You're right. Yeah, it ties into the wrong decision. Yeah.
Of the options that are there, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, Councillor Bill, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to thank all those groups that have made the responses to the consultation. It does highlight how important and it is to respond to consultations from the council. From my perspective, the council's policy all along is to work with the community. One of the clear strategies is to, rather than lose community buildings and services, is to work with our community and to look for community takeover. And one of those key benefits when a lot of the organisations are putting their business case together includes this rates relief that they get that may be judged as a gift from a council, but it's so essential in terms of making the figures work. And my particular point was that there are organisations that we've had recent discussions with in terms of delivering good voluntary community services through Salty Hall, Ben Close Centre, the Alloa Community Hub, who are looking at the council asset transfer and built within their business plan, inevitably, I would imagine, this rates relief. So I'm absolutely delighted that we will retain that relief and should do so going forward, because the unhidden costs to our community of not supporting these organisations in this way really haven't been quantified, but the responses have indicated in a very clear and transparent way what the impacts would be. So I'm very happy to support the recommendation put forward by the Leader of the Council.
Thank you. Any other contributions to the debate? Sorry, Councillor Lee.
Thanks, Convener. Yeah, and I'm quite happy to support. I think it's fairly unanimous. It dovetails in a lot of what we've already discussed at this meeting and previous meetings about collaboration, transformation, partnership. I mean, I know myself as a councillor and other councillors, where do we turn when we need help and support where the council can't help us and facilitate? Turn to the third sector. Where does the council turn when they need help and support to areas they can't reach? They turn to the third sector. So I think this funding is vital to continue along the vein where we spoke about spending to save and delivering going forward through these transformational partnerships, because that third sector will be needed to help us deliver on those priorities. So I'm happy to support.
Thank you, Councillor Quinn.
No, thank you. No, everyone's all talked about the benefits and that. Obviously, I'm supportive of this to maintain the non-domestic rates relief. I just want to say as well, to thank all the organisations to take part, because I think this really shows the value of consultation and responding to consultations. We struggle so much to get responses to things for consultations out there, but if people don't respond to consultations, we don't have the data, we can't see the impact. And because they've responded now, we can quantify that, we can see the wider impact in the community, we can see what's going on, and that's what allows us to make better decisions. So because of this consultation, it's really highlighted the impact. You know, I think we all thought there was an impact, but this has highlighted exactly how big the impact would be. I think so. That's been a really important part of this. So I think it's good that we've had this consultation. I'm glad that this has happened, and it seems like we're all in agreement. So hopefully, then, like Councillor Holmes said, we can put this to bed now and hopefully provide a bit of relief for people and calm their anxiety somewhat going forward. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Forson, you want the opportunity to sum up?
Sorry, can I?
Oh, sorry, Councillor Coyne.
Yep. I'm just puzzled about talking about support the paper or not support the paper, because the paper as it stands is inconclusive. So we need to clarify what it is we're supporting. And so the paper needs to be changed for us to, or we now vote on what to include. How do we handle this?
So, Councillor Coyne, after Councillor Forson has summed up, I will put to the Chamber what has been proposed by the administration, and either will support that, or the alternative of the three options that are there will be proposed by somebody else in Chamber.
Sorry, say that again.
So, Councillor Forson's summed up. What I will be putting to the Chamber is, do we agree with option C, which is to maintain the provision of non-domestic relief? Either we will support that or we won't. If we don't support it, you will need to opt for one of those other two options and put it forward as a proposal.
Okay, so you'll be accepting that.
Yeah.
Understood.
Okay, Councillor Forson, do you want to sum up?
Yes, thank you, Convener. Yeah, I would like to take the opportunity to sum up and just say a few words and just clarify, I suppose, the procedures that we follow. Every single year, officers are tasked with to bring forward options that could potentially deliver savings to balance the budget. So every year we see it as councillors, the same options will appear again and again and again. And as an administration, we'll put together a budget, we'll put it forward. Other people can do the same thing, or they can amend the budget. And that's what happened here. There was a budget proposal put forward last year in respect of the cask clubs and the £4,000. There was an amendment to remove that out to consult on the full impact of that. And it was felt at the time that it was fair to include all organisations who received the similar discretionary rates. Consultation took place, it's been brought back to us. So officers carried out the consultation, that's an operational thing. But the decisions about whether that's taken or not is taken by this council, it's taken by elected members, but it needs to be brought into the chamber to allow those decisions to be taken. And that's what we have before us today. Just to clarify, the administration is proposing that we keep the status quo, that we do not withdraw the discretionary rates relief, which is one of the options that is available to us in the paper. I'm sure from what I've heard around the table that that's going to be unanimous. I can't see anybody else taking another decision based on the consultation responses. But we needed those consultation responses, I think, to fully understand the impacts. It may be when officers are tasked yet again to come forward with proposals, they might put that on the table because for them that is a viable option. We see it again and again. It'll be up to us to decide again whether we put that forward in any budget proposals. And having taken the decision here today, I'm not going to put that forward in any budget proposals because we just have to consult again and we know what the results of the consultation are going to be. The work that's carried out by these organisations for the input of what is a relatively small sum has not yet been quantified, but I think it would come into far more than this council would be able to pick up. So I hope that gives assurances as much as it can be given assurances, but it would need support across this chamber to change that policy, and that's not going to happen from what I'm hearing today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So what's been put forward in the movement of the paper by Councillor Forson is of the options available to you, option C, to maintain the provision of non-domestic relief to all organisations. Do we agree that, or does anybody wish to propose an alternative of the two options that are available?
It's a roll call, please, on that.
So the option C is what's been put forward. I've been asked for a roll call vote.
Thank you very much. This is a roll call vote. Councillor Fairley.
Option C.
Councillor Lee.
Option C.
Councillor Lindsay.
Option C.
Councillor Balsillie.
Or option 3.
Councillor Benny.
Option 3.
C.
C.
Started it. The avoidance of doubt is option C.
C.
Councillor Kirk. Councillor Law. Option C. Councillor Hamilton.
Option C.
Councillor Rennie. Oh, no, need a councillor, my bad. Councillor McTaggart.
Option C.
Councillor Eyre.
Option C.
Councillor Forson.
Option C.
Councillor Holden. Councillor Quinn.
Option C.
Councillor Harrison.
Option C.
Councillor Martin. Councillor Coyne.
Option C.
Thank you.
Okay, so option C. Option C has been approved unanimously by the chamber. I'm not Sherlock Holmes, but I appreciate that some of the audience here, this might have been the item that you were coming in to see, and I'm happy to pause a meeting if any want to take this as an opportunity to now leave. You're more than welcome to stay, of course, if you wish.
plus the volume.
We'll add that to the thing. So it's just queer, because you normally read out the bits that we're deciding on. So you'll be reading out the same stuff.
So what I read out when we were making the decision was the position that was put forward by the mover of the paper on behalf of the administration. Quite honestly, Councillor Quinn, I felt if I had to read through the rest of that in total, I was going to confuse the matter rather than clarify it. There are three options on the paper. We have been put forward a proposal on one of those options unanimously and agreed to. That's it. We're taking a decision based on the options.
Not convinced.
We could have actually voted on each option.
Yeah, we could have. And the invite, sorry, hang on a second. The invite was for anybody who wanted to put forward an alternative proposal to the one that was being moved by the administration. So the option was there for anybody to put forward A or B as an alternative to C, and nobody took up the option. So we voted on the one that was put forward. I'm happy to pick us up another conversation after the meeting at some point if you like.
Being a pedant, it doesn't make sense to me.
Two pedants is going to be a really difficult conversation. Item 8 is the annual review of debtors 2024-25, and Lindsay's going to take us through that.
Thank you. This report gives an update of income collection and debt outstanding for the financial year 24-25 across the council's income streams, proposes an amount for write-off. The report also provides comparisons to the previous year's collection and improvement work being progressed within the services. The report asks Council to approve the proposed write-off amount of £719,639, which relates to 2,229 accounts. The breakdown of write-off per income is provided in Table 4 of the report, and further detail is provided in Appendix B, showing these amounts categorised by the reasons for write-off. Once approved for write-off, if at a later date any amount that would enable the debt to be recovered, then it would be written back on and pursued. In addition to the proposed write-off, Council is also asked to approve the write-off of the balance of school meal income for the 24-25 year, which amounts to £3,543. This is detailed in section 4.6 of the report, and the proposed debt write-off by school is shown in Appendix C. So I'm happy with colleagues to take questions on the report. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Lindsay. Do you have any questions? Councillor Quinn?
Thanks. Table 5 on page 95, the debt write-off. The proposed write-off looks, for the most part, to be an improvement on previous years, with two significant differences. Non-domestic rates is not quite double, but it's gone up a hell of an amount, as has sundry debts gone up by an amount. Why are they against the trend?
So in terms of the former tenant relief, that's significantly reduced because there was a targeted exercise in the previous year. So if you take the NPR and sundry debt in isolation, it is just dependent on the individual debt itself and the circumstances that the debtor is in, and whether we can recover that. We've not seen any specific trends as to why that would be any different.
Okay, and what about the non-domestic rate going up, the write-off going up from 139 to 225?
So the non-domestic rates has actually just stayed around the same number of accounts. It's just gone up in value. I'll bring in my colleague to shed more light.
Okay, so yeah, pretty much just what kind of Lindsay mentioned. As you can see, the case numbers have stayed the same, moving from 66 to 67 liabilities. It can just vary based on the individual charge. Obviously, non-domestic rates properties are charged all differently depending on the rateable value. So it just so happens that this year, the 67 cases have been more valuable per case than the previous year. There is, again, no significant trend.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yep, Councillor McTaggart.
Thanks, convener. Am I right in saying, Lindsay, that we will continue to pursue these should a change in the future be made so that we're able to recover?
Thank you. Yes, if there's any information that comes to light that allows us to continue to pursue that. So if we use example of somebody moving out of area, we don't have any updated details, but if they happen to move back in the area, we could have them and we'd have those details and we would be able to pursue the debt again. So we would make every attempt to recover debt where we've got information that allows us to do so.
Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Coyne.
Just on that, does that include debts that have been written off? Can they be written back? Is that what you're saying? They can be. Yeah.
If there are no other questions, thanks, Lindsay. Councillor Forson to move the papers.
Yep, I'd like to propose the annual review of debtors for 24-25 and invite members to note the trends in income collection and to approve the proposed write-offs for this year, which total £719,639, along with £3,543 of school meal debt. I want to start with the important point that Clackmannanshire Council makes every reasonable effort to collect every penny that is due. Our finance and revenues team work within a clear corporate debt recovery and write-off policy, and they follow a structured and robust process before any account is considered for write-off. As the report highlights, bills and invoices totalling £85.48 million were issued this year, an increase from last year, and the vast majority of this is collected in year. For example, our council tax in-year collection rate has risen again, and it's now at 96.2%, which is not only an improvement on last year, but also sits above the national average of 95.5%. I think it reflects strong systems, efficient recovery activity, and ongoing engagement with households who might be struggling. Across all income streams, from council tax to non-domestic rates, sundry invoices, housing rents, and housing benefit overpayments, the approach is the same. We bill promptly, we pursue debt in line with policy and legislation, and we support residents to manage payments where they can. Debt is only written off when all reasonable and lawful recovery options have been fully exhausted. I think it's also important to stress that every council in Scotland does this. Writing off irrecoverable debt is not about letting anyone off the hook, it's just simply sound financial management and an accounting requirement. Many debts become uncollectible through circumstances entirely out with our control. I think Appendix B makes clear a significant proportion of cases fall into categories such as people who have died with no estate, individuals or businesses who have been sequestrated or liquidated, and cases where the debtor is untraceable despite exhaustive attempts, and debt that is time-barred in law, particularly where more than 5 years have passed with no contact. This year, for example, 51% of council tax debt proposed for write-off relates to deceased individuals. A further 47% relates to sequestration or trust deeds, and only 2% relates to untraceable or very small balances. These facts demonstrate that the write-off process is not discretionary, it's driven by statutory limitations and practical reality. The same pattern is seen in other areas. In non-domestic rates, the largest proportion of write-off is due to sequestration and liquidation, and in sundry debt, almost all the write-off relates to time-barred debts or to cases where the debtor has passed away. I think it's also worth noting the positive picture around school meal debt, which has reduced significantly from last year due to changes in free school meal entitlement. The remaining £3,543 being proposed for write-off relates to cases held within schools that have been pursued locally but where further recovery isn't cost effective. Overall, as the paper sets out, our gross debtor position remains stable and write-offs are at a level appropriate for a councillor size. They are fully accounted for within existing provisions, and Finance confirms the recommendations are within our legal powers and consistent with our policies. Convener, I think the report gives us assurances that income collection remains strong, that our processes are rigorous and fair, and that we are managing public funds responsibly. I therefore move the recommendations outlined in the report.
Thank you. Councillor Hammond, to second.
Thanks, Convener. This report gives us an honest look at how we've managed income collection over the past year, the recovery actions taken, and to proposed write-offs for debts that are no longer recoverable. Council tax collection reached 96.2%, an improvement on last year and above the national average. Former tenant arrears and housing benefit overpayments have also reduced thanks to targeted recovery work and new processes like payment deduction programmes. The report also explains why some debts need to be written off, cases where recovery isn't possible due to reasons like death, no estate, bankruptcy, untraceable customers, very small balances, or time-lapse debts under the Prescription and Limitation Act. This paper shows strong progress in transparency in managing income, even in challenging times. For these reasons, I'm happy to second this paper.
Okay, thank you. Paper's open for debate. Anybody wish to debate the paper? Councillor McTaggart.
Thanks, Convener. I just wanted to highlight the positive performance between last year and this year. I mean, former tenant arrears, including lockups and recharges, 1,899, down to 137. That's phenomenal. And for 805,238 to 75,745. So just to highlight that obviously there's been a lot of work in the background regarding the reduction in these write-off figures, and I just wanted to highlight that. Thanks, Convener.
Thank you. Any other contributions to debate? Councillor Parsons, an opportunity to sum up? No? Okay. The paper asks us to note the trends in income collection 24-25. It asks us to approve the proposed debt write-off of 719,639, the detail which is at paragraph 6.2 in Appendix B, and to approve the write-off of school meal debt held within schools of £3,543, the details of which in paragraph 4.6 Appendix C. We're happy to approve. Thank you. Item 9, implementation of Scotland Excel Care and Support Flexible Framework. And Wendy's going to take us through the paper. Thank
you. Wendy Forrest, Head of Strategic Planning and Health Improvement for the Health and Social Care Partnership. The paper you have in front of you represents more than 2 years of work to get us to this point in terms of the delivery of the Scotland Excel framework. The paper you have in front of you has been through Stirling Council and has also been through the Integration Joint Board, where my colleague Jennifer Baird, who's the Service Manager for Contracts and Commissioning, has presented significant detail around how we got to this point. The paper represents a significant spend of delegated funding into the Health and Social Care Partnership with a focus on supporting people who are in need of care and support across our communities and localities. The need for this paper reflects the need and demand of services coming forward and people who are, to quote Joanna, brave enough to come forward and seek that help and support when they need it most. The paper relates to, as I say, a significant amount of money and the management of this money, the delegation of the funding within this space is subject to significant scrutiny in terms of the Health and Social Care Partnership, SLT, as well as the Finance, Performance and Audit Committee of the Health and Social Care Partnership, as well as through the Integration Joint Board. There is a presentation which Jennifer has presented through an informal session of the Integration Joint Board, which breaks down the significant work which is laid out within the appendix in terms of the tiers and the model, the work around ensuring that we get good value for money and also good quality services is part of the day-to-day business that Jennifer oversees, and that's also reported in through ongoing performance reporting around the volume and activity, as well as the financial reporting linked to the work. I'm happy to take questions. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Wendy. Have any questions on paper? Councillor Silly?
Yep. I noticed that the support persons applications for Stirling come through our own social services, which provides a one-door approach, which makes sense. But is there how are the costs organised after that? Are our social services taking on the burden of all the processing of the application, or how does it work?
Thank you. We have our ones for Clackmannanshire and Stirling approach. So Jennifer oversees all of the commissioning team from both local authority areas. In terms of the procurement processes, Jennifer meets with Derek Barr as the procurement manager on a 6-weekly basis to ensure that we are compliant with the financial regulations and also the workings of the local authority in terms of the delivery of health and social care. The funding and how it's broken down is absolutely how you would expect it to be, that we are very clear about what the spend is, what the need and demand is, and what the delivery is across Clackmannanshire as part of our 3 locality setup.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? No, thank you, Wendy. Councillor Law to move the paper.
I'm happy to propose this paper to approve the procurement of care and support arrangements for Clackmannanshire under the Scotland Excel 2022 Care and Support Flexible Framework. This is for the people who rely on us for care and support at their most vulnerable times in their lives. The projected spend between April 25 and September 2030 is over 94 million. With such a significant investment, we must ensure that every pound delivers value, quality and compassion. We have a statutory duty to provide suitable care arrangements for those assessed as needing them. Failure to act would place the council in breach of its legal obligations. This framework ensures compliance while giving us the tools to manage the supply market effectively and secure best value. Approving the procurement will help guarantee the continuity of care and help prevent withdrawals of services at short notice, help reduce delayed discharge and offer opportunities for local care providers to participate and grow. The framework ensures that the care is delivered by professionals who are skilled, caring and compassionate. Our local terms and conditions and ranking tool will help us to allocate packages to the most appropriate providers, ensuring the right care by the right people. So I ask you to help to please support this paper so that we can safeguard our statutory duties, manage public resources responsibly, and most importantly, that those who need the care receive it with dignity and compassion.
Thank you. Councillor Bilsilly to second.
Thank you. I'd like to formally second that just very quickly. It replaces the existing Scotland Excel model. Many members will know that Scotland Excel works with up to 2 local authorities in terms of trying to secure efficient procurement. And that's exactly what's happening here with Stirling and updating the model and following the framework and governance arrangements that have been established by Scotland Excel. The most important element, of course, is that this allows for the inclusion and provision of local providers. And ultimately, although this is a massive spend for both councils, 95 million over 5 years, the most important thing is it does deliver very important support services to our local people. And at that level, it is a very emotive process and does deliver important care elements. So it's important that we get it right. And I'm sure that this framework provides the structure to do that. So I'm happy to second the paper.
Thank you. The paper is now open for debate. Anybody wish to debate the paper? Are we happy to approve? Okay, thank you. It's probably the right time in the agenda to flag up the fact that this is Joanna's last meeting with us, I think. She switched off already.
That's not used enough.
I mean, it's not something we want to celebrate at all, Joanna, but you haven't been with us very long. You've been with us long enough to have left an incredible impression, I think, on everybody that's been in contact and had to deal with you in a much closer level than some of the rest of us have. The level of disappointment that they're demonstrating about you moving on is testimony of the very positive influence and contribution that you've made in your time with us during a really incredibly difficult time for you to come in and deal with the issues that you've been having to deal with. So, deeply disappointed we're going to lose you. The role that you're moving on to is testimony, I think, as well, what it is that you've got to offer, and absolutely recognise why it is that you've gone on to take that role on. We're deeply disappointed to lose you, but on behalf of all of us, just wish you all the very best in your new role. To thank you very much for the contribution you've made in the time you've been here. Colleagues, if you don't mind, I'm going to break for lunch now. Come back at 1:30. You're right, Sweetie.
Yes, I'm still